Does privacy play a role in digital trust? Well, that's a difficult question, right? How does privacy play a role in digital trust? In fact, maybe what is digital trust? How does it link to privacy? What role does privacy play? Maybe what are the return on investments on privacy? These are all complex questions. And how about talking these questions with a fellow privacy colleague, with a fellow privacy professional, Andy Chesterman, who is going to help us delve through and dissect these questions. Let's go and talk to him.
Hello, and welcome to the Fit for Privacy Podcast with Punit Bhatia. This is the podcast for those who care about their privacy. Here, your host, Punit Bhatia, has conversations with industry leaders about their perspectives, ideas, and opinions relating to privacy, data protection, and related matters. Be aware that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not legal advice. Let us get started. Hello, and welcome to the Fit for Privacy Podcast with Punit Bhatia. This is the podcast for those who care about their privacy. Here, your host, Punit Bhatia, has conversations with industry leaders about their perspectives, ideas, and opinions relating to privacy, data protection, and related matters. Be aware that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not legal advice. Let us get started.
So here we are with Andy Chesterman. Andy, welcome to Fit for Privacy Podcast.
Hi, thanks Punit, for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So let me start with a basic question. A few years ago, we were talking about data privacy, protecting data. Then some of us were talking data governance, some of us were starting to talk about leveraging data, and then came AI. And then we were talking AI will kill us, AI will take everything away, we will not have jobs. Now that thing is a bit settling down, but we are starting to talk about the concept of digital trust. That means you need to protect privacy, you need to take care of security, you need to manage your risk and compliance and all those things. So how would you describe this concept of digital trust?
I think I would hark back to the days when GDPR was first implemented, enforced. Apologies. Back in 2018, there was a lot of scaremongering by certain members of the industry as to what it meant for companies, and I think over the last few years we have watered down those concerns, and we've built compliance into the culture of companies, and that's what it should be. And by default, that helps. Companies are now understanding that they have to embrace privacy, embrace the concept of privacy into their businesses, which then encourages trust within their employees, their staff, within their prospects, their customers. People expect now for companies to look after their personal data, and no matter how it's being used, whether it be via traditional storage methods or the latest platforms or AI as it's now being utilised in businesses, and the whole just landscape is changing the whole time. So privacy has a key theme here in terms of it should be utilised to embrace trust. Okay, so if you can help demonstrate to people what you're doing, then you can then trust comes into that in a big way.
That makes sense. And you mentioned when the GDPR came up, it a little bit put the burden of compliance or things like that. But I
Yes,
think people are starting to realize that privacy is not a compliance burden, but it's something that consumers are also demanding. Because a
correct.
few weeks back, my son was telling me he was opening a bank account with one of the fintech banks,
Mm,
which claim we will allow you to chat, we will allow you to do this and that. And he
mm.
was like, hey, they were asking me my ID, then they asked me to do a live video, and then they were asking me to speak words. What is going on? I think you do that privacy stuff, right? Isn't it a bit a breach of privacy? I was like, okay, finally the penny is dropping. So people are starting to demand
Yeah,
privacy rather than being a compliance burden, no?
I totally agree. I think that's a very good explanation, a very good example of where data collections has to be proportionate we can have all this tech behind us, but if we have to give so many different types of data over, like your image, your ID, your voice, etc. Do these systems need all that information to function, or is it because companies want to have it and want to populate their systems with as many variants of our data as possible? It may be good for business to have that from a depth of information perspective, but we go down to the data minimization principle again, going back to the basics. How much of it is actually necessary, or how much is it do they just want to use? And I think in some ways GDPR came in at the right time, because looking back now, you've got AI, you've got huge technological developments, and it just has to happen that 8 years previously, 10 years previously, the legislation's come into force. And we now have although it's obviously basics and principles based, we have legislation in place that regulates how this information can be used, this platform can be used. If GDPR hadn't come in when it did, and AI is now in place, it'd be used like the Wild West. How can we implement this? Chuck it in, let's see what we can do with it. There's now obligations of companies to implement this tech in a responsible, proportionate, measured way. And that's what I think we need to try and embrace and realize that's got to happen.
I agree with you. I think it came at about the right time. Of course, we always say that it could have come 5 years earlier, but
Yeah.
the data started to be utilized about 2005, 2006, when the
Yeah.
tech revolution came, the internet revolution came, the
Yeah.
companies got set up. And then around 2010, people started to understand it's happened, it's a bit too much, and there are no rules. And then about 2012 or 13, they started to talk about GDPR. And as the processes, it took 4 years to come in and
Absolutely.
2 years to be, what do you say, applicable. So it came at the right time. You're right. And the question then is, as you mentioned at the end of my first question on digital trust, that privacy has a role to play in essence. So, in your view, what kind of a role does privacy compliance play in creating digital trust? Because on one hand, we were talking about culture of privacy. Originally, we were saying a privacy culture is what we want to create, and nowadays we are saying culture of trust. So, how does privacy play that role?
Could you elaborate a little more in terms of what you mean? Sorry.
So, what I mean is, we are talking about digital trust, and digital trust is basically something that's coming from, as you said, past. Like, let's say 30 years ago, if you go to your bank, you talk to John, and John, you know him, he's in the branch every day. You're comfortable giving him your cash, you're comfortable taking money from him. And if one day John is not there, or you don't go, John knows you are ill or he's ill, whatever,
Yes.
those relationship develops.
Yes.
Then if one day John says, "Hey, bank is closed, I'll
Mm-hmm.
keep the money, but I'll put it tomorrow," you will trust him, because that's the trust we were talking about.
You're right.
Now,
Yes.
all of a sudden, since 2012 or 15, we are more and more, or a bit earlier also, we are talking
Along.
here's a digital bank.
Yeah.
Like, there is Revolut, there is Wise, there's N26, and those banks.
Yeah.
Now, nobody has seen any branch. There's
Gotcha.
no
Yeah.
Barclays, there's
There's
no
no
Tesco.
right. There's no
Yeah, there's
relationships there, are
nothing.
there? Yeah.
It's pure
Yeah.
digital.
Yeah.
And in that digital, now, when it came up, first we were like, should I bank there? Do I want to put my £100,000 in there, $100,000 in there? And some of us were like, no, I will keep it with Barclays while I'll
Mm.
open an account there because it's fancy.
Mm.
So that trust is not there. And since that thing is digital, now we're talking
Yes.
digital trust. And how do you build that digital trust? Is you do risk management, you do security, you make sure cyber security is there. Like one of the banks, the
Yeah.
ones I mentioned, are talking, your money is secure with us, safe with us. Why are they talking? Because people doubt that. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
if we extend that to the concept of privacy, because for me there are three elements, broadly speaking:
Mm.
there's security, there's privacy, and there's risk.
Mm-hmm.
If you manage risk, if you protect privacy, and you protect data or secure transactions, then essentially you have digital trust. So in my opinion, privacy does play a role in creating digital trust.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the question I'm extending, saying, What is your view? Similar, different? How do you see it?
Um, I agree. I think privacy is only one kind of pillar of this we need to look at. You can't have privacy can't be all encompassing, in my opinion. Okay, there's got to be several elements to it. I think security is different to privacy, although the two are heavily overlapped. Um, privacy, I think, has to, very often people get confused and think that privacy covers everything. It doesn't. It doesn't. There's too many facets to do with security. I mean, cybersecurity is different to privacy. Risk is a all-encompassing as well. There's lots of proportions of risk. So I think privacy has to be thought about as to how people have confidence with what you're doing. Are you going to look after my information? And that's different. That security is protecting it. Privacy is making sure that you're only handling it in the appropriate way, and that you're administering it in the appropriate way. It's the handling and operation of it rather than the securing and technical side of things. Maybe that's that. Maybe you agree with that. I'm not sure, but I think
I
there's
do.
so many different pillars involved that there's no one answer to that. It's to gain trust from a consumer who wants to say experience bank with you. I mean, if I log into NatWest, for example, to the app on NatWest, I have absolute confidence and trust that they're going to look after my information and that there's the appropriate security measures around it. If I forget my password, there's appropriate process to go through to renew it. I've got to go click through emails. I've got to do this. Got to show my fingerprint. I've got to do facial recognition. So the biometrics in there help you to make sure that it's only you activating that information or reactivating that information. But if I was to go to a lesser known institution that I haven't got trust with, then I may say, well, if you're offshore, for example, I've never heard of you, then I may be unwilling to submit such information without additional checks in place. But you have that confidence with a large name bank, knowing they have the systems in place, they have the security systems in place, they've done all their pen testing, they've done all their vulnerability checks, and it's kind of safe as houses in some respect.
I agree with you. I think if you put the security measures, the privacy measures, it creates trust. And also, privacy goes a step further compared to security because there's the obligation of transparency, which means in a privacy notice, in a cookie notice, you are telling the customer what you're doing, and that too in a simple language. And when a user reads it, they would usually get to know how trustworthy or how is my privacy being protected or not, and that usually leads to trust. Of course, you can write something and do something, and then the trust is broken.
Yeah.
But we all, and you and me and our privacy colleagues, usually recommend making investments in privacy. We
Yes.
say you should do this, you should do that, and typically we are encountering a question: is there a return on investment on privacy investments? I mean, like you sell a tool, and many others are selling a tool, and then this is there return on investment? How do you handle that question?
I would say most definitely yes, there is. Although lots of people we speak to are of the opinion that they just see the privacy as a cost focus, a cost center. It's going to cost us. We had a chat in the office the other week saying, one of our clients use us like their electricity company. They just pay for it and they know it's got to be covered off. But ultimately, you have got to realise that if you invest in a privacy department, a consultant, a privacy, however you do it from a privacy perspective, there are benefits to your business because you're going to be able to if anyone sends you a supplier due diligence, you're going to be able to respond to it. If you have details come through, you can respond to it in an efficient manner. If there's a complaint come through, you can respond to it. If the ICO come through to you, you've got all the documents in place, you've got everything that you need to show the ICO what you're doing. And if you have a breach, you've got the professionals in place to deal with it. When you're doing a merger acquisition, again, any challenges they come up with, I look at the Starwood hotels many years ago with Marriott. If they had had that in place, it would have been covered off. They'd avoided the penalty the ICO put out to them. So I think that there is most definitely a return on investment. The companies that don't have privacy professionals in place, in-house, externally, whatever, I think it's a very short-sighted view, short-sighted approach. We speak to lots of companies saying, "Oh, our office manager has done it, or our head of HR has done it." What experience do you have in privacy? I did a course 3 years ago, and that's great for a box ticking perspective, because our HR head of office manager did a course, but can they implement it operationally on a day-to-day basis with ease? And do the documents, the policies make sense? Do they reflect what they're doing? Do the privacy notices make sense? Do they quote DPA 98? Those sort of things. They're very things that people don't think are important, but they're critically important. So yes, in long and short, I think there is most definitely a return on investment if you are committing to a privacy program.
Okay, and now we were talking about the tools,
Mhm.
the software that helps you establish or demonstrate compliance,
Mhm.
and you also happen to have a tool in that. Can you tell us something about Privacy Helper and how can people leverage? How is it different, and what does it do?
Yeah, I mean, Privacy Helper is our privacy service that we offer. So effectively, to give you a bit of background, the business was born in 2017. It was the DAM Solutions Group as the actual company's name, and people were saying to us, "What the hell do you do? We don't understand what you do, because there's no relation to privacy there." So we thought, okay, that's a very good point. So we launched Privacy Helper brand. We do exactly what it says in Tim. We help with privacy. It's simple as that. So we don't offer. There's no actual SaaS platform, actual platform involved. It's simply we help companies with their privacy with zero fuss. There's no, if you want to go and engage lawyers for your privacy work, you can do, and they will confuse things. No, sorry, not confuse things. Sorry, they will. They'll do their job in terms of producing legal documents. Okay, but if you speak to somebody in HR or marketing or IT or general operations for the business, and you try and explain to them from a legal perspective what privacy means to them and what it means to the business, you're going to lose them, because you're talking the legal language. You're not talking to other lawyers. Okay, so, and that's nothing against lawyers, by the way. They do a fantastic job. But just if I talk to a lawyer, normally I get lost because I'm not a lawyer. They're talking to me in their language. So effectively, what we do is we offer zero fuss, and we lay it on the line to them in terms of what they're looking for. We don't act as a blocker. We act as a builder. If you want to get a project off the ground, if your business wants to get a certain strategy launched, then we'll help you to do that in a way that is measured, is proportionate. We may have to reduce some activity so it is deemed compliant, whatever that compliance is. But we will help you to fulfill your business ambitions and business growth plans in a way that you can say, well, we've covered off our data protection obligations. We have everything in place. The DPA is done. The risk assessments are done. The transfer impact assessment's done if it's overseas. Suppliers due deal's been done. Training's been done. Policy's been written. We can go live. Plenty of times companies have said to us, I want to get this off the ground. You can do it, but you need to rein it in a little bit, because the information you're collecting at the moment, or the use of data, is kind of over the boundaries of what we'd like to do. From a risk point of view, this is our line. If we can bring it back a little bit, then we can safely say, crack on, let's go and just get this live.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. So it's consultancy that you offer, and who would be your ideal client then?
Ideal clients, I believe, are, again, we've been doing a lot of work of this in house recently with the team. Companies from 25 employees upwards, 25 to 100 employees, maybe a bit more. They're our most common clients. We deal with a fair number of hospitality clients, schools, B2B organizations predominantly, startups and growth companies on growth trajectories. We get a lot of inquiries through from companies who are looking to grow in the next 18 to 24 months, and something which we applaud is saying to them, they say, we know we've got to invoke privacy within our plans. How can we do this so we can grow, we can satisfy our investors that we're growing in a proportionate way, and we're not just tagging on data protection as an afterthought, but we've actually bolted it into the business at this early stage. And we'll work with them over a 24-month period and say, right, well, this is our timeline of work. This is where we want to get to, and we embrace it with them as much. They see us as part of their business, as a critical part of their business to get them to where they want to be. Without our assistance, these companies cannot achieve their growth goals, and that's what they view it. And that's very often it's a term and condition of their terms and conditions of their growth, that they have to have our assistance.
I agree with you. I think even for me, when sometimes new client comes and they're like, "What's the fee for privacy compliance?" I mean, it's not like a certificate I have to issue and I can say it's 5,000 euros and take it or leave it.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
like that. It's a on
no,
continuous partnership, like you mentioned. It's a collaborative journey in which we
absolutely,
help you grow, and
yes,
and we work with you to make sure all the assessments, the risks are done,
yeah.
documented, and you can be rest assured ready for launch or ready for your go to market and grow together.
Yeah, totally. And we will walk with hand in hand and say, right, at this stage, this is required. There's milestones each area that have to be ticked off, have to be approved. We sit very often with at board level and say, okay, well, in order for this next stage to happen, this is going to happen. If it doesn't happen, we're not saying it must happen. We're saying to you, we advise you, this is how to achieve this goal. Okay, and obviously it's discussed at a high level, and that's where companies see us as a critical partner to their path,
Okay.
and we help them as much as we can do.
I agree with you. I think it's a partnership approach, working together and understanding that it's a ongoing compliance, ongoing collaboration that is needed,
Yes.
not a one-off project or one-off instance when you say you hire somebody and 2 months later you're done. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't. Business changes the whole time. There are different business challenges every day of the week, and sometimes they'll get some people will say to them, okay, well, here back, this is our next challenge, or it's our latest challenge, or we've got this project on the go. And I hate to have the same answer, but can we do this? It depends. That I know it's a familiar old cliche in data
Yeah,
protection terms, but it depends. If you want to go as you're doing now, then I can't sign it off. I can't approve it. I can't say from a data protection perspective we're happy with what you're doing, because there are several areas in legislation that it does not satisfy. However, if we look at it and we smooth down the rough edges, then we've got a far better chance of saying to you, you know what, you're in a very good position. If you're challenged by anybody, if the ICO come knocking, if they did, then you have enough there to demonstrate to you that you will have what you need in place. And I try to reassure clients the fact that I can't guarantee that the regulator won't come knocking, but I can say to them, if they do come knocking with a query or complaint or whatever it is, then you've got enough to show them that you've tried your damnedest to achieve compliance. And more often than not, the regulator will work with you to fine-tune that compliance. The ICO, as I'm sure we're all aware, aren't the most active of enforcement agencies, but they are known to want to educate companies. So I urge companies not to be concerned about the fine element. It's more about your own business partners or business associates or third parties saying to you, come on, we're not satisfied with this.
indeed. And that's the point we were talking of earlier, trust. Because when companies say, I'm not satisfied, they're essentially
There we
saying,
go.
I don't know if I can trust you. And doing
Yeah,
all this effort of compliance, the risk assessments, the documentation allows companies to be feeling or to be demonstrating a trustworthy picture of themselves.
absolutely.
And that's what privacy compliance is all about.
Totally. And I think the advantage is in sometimes in gaining outsourced or external assistance, even if we work alongside your internal privacy consultants, your privacy team, is that they have that third party specialist seal of approval. That's not just head of privacy in X company saying to the board, yet we're fine. They've actually had independent specialists who are aligned with the with what they're trying to achieve, saying, you know what, we're on side with this. We can't think of any other areas that reasonably you have to that are going to cause problems. You're in a good position.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, and it's amazing how time flies. We are almost at the end of the conversation, so it's been wonderful to have you. Is there any one final message you would like to pass to audiences?
Well, first of all, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, so thank you for inviting me. Secondly, it's been, you know, I've my previous life, I worked in marketing before we're moving into data protection, and this has really given me a chance. The industry has given me a chance to, I suppose, reassure companies and help companies that data protection isn't that big hurdle that people view it to be. Isn't that pain in the backside? Granted, it's not the sexiest thing in the world to talk about, but when we hear from companies that we've helped them to achieve their goals, their milestones, their ambitions, we've taken that worry off the plate for them. Okay, because we've come in and we've made it a very straightforward, simplified task rather than this big monster of a compliance task. Then it makes it all worthwhile. You know, when you get letters from clients saying, emails saying, your time with us went down really, really well. It gives you a warm feeling that you've helped a company with taking that pain away from them.
I agree with you. And if now somebody says, "Hey, I want to talk to Andy," what's the best way to reach out to you?
Best way is probably via our website, which is privacyhelp.co.uk. All contact details are on there. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn sometimes. So hit me up on LinkedIn and let's have a chat. I love talking to new people. We run a business. We have global coverage. We've grown massively in the last 18 months. We have a lot of regular clients. New conversations of what businesses thrive. So if there's any privacy consultants out there who want to partner up with us, or work with us, strengthen their offering, or think we could help them, or they can help us, then drop us a line, get in touch. And likewise, any clients there who want an alternative approach, then let's have a chat.
Indeed, that's a good way. So, with that, I want to say, Andy, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful to have this conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. If you liked the show, feel free to share it with a friend and write a review. If you have already done so, thank you so much. And if you did not like the show, don't bother and forget about it. Take care and stay safe. Fit for Privacy helps you to create a culture of privacy and manage risks by creating, defining, and implementing a privacy strategy that includes delivering scenario-based training for your staff. We also help those who are looking to get certified in CIPPE, CIPM, and CIPT through on-demand courses that help you prepare and practice for certification exam. Want to know more? Visit www.fit4privacy.com. That's www.fit4privacy.com. If you have questions or suggestions, drop an email at hello@fit4privacy.com. Until next time, goodbye.